You won't believe the tea we're spilling today. From secret breakups to shocking lies, this is Unreal Tea. Hit subscribe before the drama starts. Welcome, everyone. What if I told you that a single plate of nachos came close to ending a marriage, rocking the very foundations of an entire family and revealing the ugliest secret about one of reality television's most notorious husbands? That's right. You heard it here first, nachos. But beneath the laughter, beneath the cringe, there's a story that TLC itself attempted to suppress, an event that vanished for years because it revealed Cody Brown in his rawest, worst light. This was not merely a thoughtless gaffe, it was a confession. A confession so cold, so humiliating, that Christine Brown herself would later say she didn't know how deeply the insult stung until much, much later. And yet, when Cody's mouth did open, when those words spilled out, when he informed her that he was grossed out by having seen Christine consume nachos, the hurt was already permanent. But this is where things get darker. Why was this episode kept under wraps? Why did TLC wash it off of streaming sites, remove it from circulation, and attempt to erase history? Was it truly over content rights, or an attempt in vain to defend Cody Brown's reputation at all costs? Tonight, we lift the veil on the notorious Nacho episode, the re-emerging tell-all that exposes not only marital issues, but manipulation, double standards, and the profound cracks that fractured sister wives. And let's be real, this is not all about nachos. This is about control, about shame, about how a single man's words might warp an entire family life, pitting wives against one another in unspoken competition for validation, while audiences in their living rooms were being fed a tightly scripted facade of togetherness. For years, fans wondered, was Sister Wives genuine love or mere show? Now, with the revelation from Christine's book and TLC's new commitment to re-releasing long-buried clips, we have the proof. Cody himself confessing that he was never attracted to Christine. Cody himself evading responsibility when challenged. Cody himself demonstrating the world just how superficial and damaging his attitudes towards marriage really were. And here's the twist. This wasn't a throwaway joke. This wasn't ribald banter. This was a man on national television declaring that the woman he had married, the woman who had given birth to his children, revolted him right from the start. A hurt that Christine would quietly bear for years, until it finally burst forth in her fleeing the marriage once and for all. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we're going to reveal why TLC tried to keep this tell-all under wraps, how Christine's memoir opened the doors wide enough, and why Cody's own mouth could be to blame for his well-oiled family dynasty being torn down. If you believed Sister Wives was all drama, you haven't heard the half, because this tale isn't just sad, it's salacious. And it began with one eye-popping question. Does size matter, Cody? When Cody Brown initially made the now notorious Nacho confession, it didn't merely inspire howls of laughter or incredulity, it flamed outrage. In that deeply buried tell-all, Cody confessed on national TV that he wasn't physically attracted to Christine right from the start. He didn't sugarcoat his words, he didn't defend her dignity, he didn't even hesitate. Instead, he claimed that the simple sight of Christine eating nachos was enough to disgust him and delay their marriage. Imagine hearing that from your husband, not privately, but in front of the world. For Christine, the sting of that statement cut deeper than most people realized. She later revealed in her book that she didn't even know about this Nacho story until much later, when the clip resurfaced. And when she finally did learn about it, the betrayal was overwhelming. How do you recover from learning that the man you devoted your life to, raised children with, created a family with, was never actually drawn to you at all? But this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. That same episode, which was hosted by Natalie Morales, somehow vanished. TLC wiped it off of streaming services such as HBO Max. Whole early seasons started vanishing. Viewers looking for answers were perplexed as to why. Was it merely licensing problems? Or was TLC purposefully attempting to protect Cody's image by erasing the moments that his cruelty was most apparent? This wasn't new. When scandals came for the Duggar family, entire seasons were wiped out of memory. TLC had the reputation for burying unseemly truths in order to protect their stars. So when fans noticed that the tell-all where Cody openly mocked Christine's size and appetite was missing, suspicions grew louder. Was this an attempt to shield Cody from backlash? Was TLC rewriting history before Christine's book exposed him? The irony is almost cinematic. While older episodes were disappearing, a TLC outlet in India began quietly re-uploading them online. Clips that had lain hidden for years suddenly appeared, raw, unedited, and incriminating. Included was the Nacho episode, evidence that Cody had uttered each word, evidence that TLC had once tried to bury it, and evidence that Christine's feelings of insecurity about her size had a direct connection to the man who was bound to love and support her. And the backlash within the family was evident. When Cody did confess on location, you could see Janelle sitting next to him, her face strained but her smile unnatural, near nervousness. Meri leapt in to stand up for Christine, clearly shocked by the cold-bloodedness of Cody. Janelle, however, seemed conflicted, half of her wanting to defend Christine, the other half falling into survival mode, thankful it wasn't she who was in the crosshairs that day. That's the painful reality of their polygamous marriage. Insults were weapons, and at times the wives also appeared glad that the object was not them. Meanwhile, Christine herself, having long struggled with insecurity about her weight, was unwittingly bearing the burden of Cody's scorn. Her book shows just how much she internalized his rejection, fixating on digits on the scale, hoping that if she lost enough, if she transformed enough, perhaps she would be good enough for him. What the truth is, however, is scary. Regardless of what Christine did, she would never be enough for Cody, because his lack of desire wasn't about nachos or weight or size, it was about control, ego, and power. And yet, rather than apologizing, rather than being humble, Cody doubled down. When asked whether he was sorry for what he'd said, he dodged, talking in circles, and providing nothing but a word salad regarding processing and grasping life. He never once met Christine's eye and said, "I was wrong." That silence spoke more than anything else. This wasn't merely about a plate of nachos. It was about a man publicly dehumanizing his wife and a network determining whether to shield him or reveal him. They shielded him for years. But now, with Christine's voice never louder, the truth is finally emerging. When Natalie Morales prodded Cody for answers about his words, the moment could have been one of redemption. He could have backed it up, offered some mercy, acknowledged that perhaps he was unkind and harsh. Instead, Cody being Cody, he evaded, diverted, and buried the room in a pile of word salad. He spun on and on about processing things in life, about how they were all going through so much, without ever taking accountability, without ever saying, "Christine, I was heartless. Christine, I am sorry." He spun the dialogue into meaningless gibberish until the bite of his admission was lost beneath his well-practiced mess. Here's the problem. Christine was never offered the microphone. In that tell-all book, Morales interviewed Cody, Janelle, and Meri separately, but Christine never received her turn. She was never questioned about what it was like to be called unattractive by her own spouse on national television. Was that Cody's work? Did he not allow producers to feature Christine in the spotlight, fearing what she would say? Christine's book fills the gap. Page by page, she recites the insecurities that plagued her during her marriage. Her weight, her shape, her very self, always against Cody's unattainable standards. She describes pursuing his approval, insisting that if she could just lose weight enough, just smile enough, just be better, she would at last get his love. And still, no matter what she did, Cody's iciness never softened. The Nacho confession wasn't a gaffe, it was the reality he'd been living all this while. Far more unsettling is the way the other wives responded. Janelle, inches from Cody when he spoke those words, made herself grin, the smile almost practiced, as if she was accustomed to ingesting his put-downs. Meri came to Christine's defense at once, decrying his words as unkind and unfair, but Janelle's half-smile and silence were telling. In that household, Cody's meanness had become so familiar that even his sharpest put-downs were received with embarrassed laughter or silence. This was the unseen battlefield of plural marriage. While the cameras created a facade of sisterhood and unity, below was a war for survival. A twisted relief. At least he's not attacking me today. And that's the tragedy. Cody's taunts were not only for Christine, They rippled through all the wives, seeding doubts of insecurity, jealousy, quiet desperation. And then came Christine's breaking point. In her book, she exposes the way that the Nacho comment was only one of a long list of humiliations. Even when she lost weight, even when she attempted to conform to his expectations, Cody found new methods of withholding approval. It was never about nachos. It was never about size. It was about control. Cody wanted to determine who was deserving of his love and who would have to starve on crumbs of attention. But TLC had an agenda. They needed to sell the vision of a plural, happy family. They needed to sell Cody as a devoted husband, a man creating something other than the stereotype of arranged polygamous marriages. And yet here he was, validating the stereotype before their very eyes, admitting to marrying Christine out of lack of attraction, demonstrating the world that love had never been the basis, but a sense of duty. So what did TLC do? They deep-sixed the tape. They sat on the tell-all. They gagged the very moment that made Cody's truth known. And for years, fans saw only pieces, until now. With Christine's book out and the family breaking apart irreparably, TLC's approach changed. The clip surfaced again. The skeleton was pulled out of the closet. And overnight, Cody's own words were being played for millions to hear all over again. For Christine, the resurfacing was not just vindication, it was liberation. After years of gaslighting and manipulation, the world could finally see what she went through. Cody's throwaway cruelty was no longer a secret. It was evidence. And the more missing footage comes back into view, fans can't help but ask, what else did TLC conceal in order to cover for Cody Brown? What other admissions are in the bank, ready to deconstruct the legend of sister wives once and for all? If there's one thing Christine left no doubt about in her book, it's this. Cody didn't act alone. With time, his words began to ring less Cody and more Robyn. The rhythm, the tone, the inevitable rehearsed responses. It was like Robyn's voice had invaded his own. And so did fans. On set, when questions became probing, Cody didn't respond, with honesty or openness. Instead, he went into what Christine called scripted lines, pristinely honed, almost rehearsed. She remembered scenes where Cody and Robyn would walk onto the set in perfect alignment, their narratives beautifully packaged, as if they had rehearsed in secret before cameras turned on. This was never meant to be the face of Sister Wives. The reality show had touted itself as brutally honest, a family defying conventions, proving that plural marriage could succeed on love, not negotiation. But the more Robyn was around, the more robotic Cody got. And the more the other wives saw their reality being overwhelmed by Cody and Robyn's narrative. Christine picked up on it first. She could hear Cody mimicking Robyn. He began to use her terms, her perspective, even her attitude. It wasn't mere influence, it was domination. Robyn's hand wasn't merely steering Cody off stage, it was constructing the entire public persona of the family. And this is where things get risky. When Cody deviated from Robyn's script, that's when things went wrong. The Nacho confession was not planned. It wasn't softened up. It came out unfiltered and raw, and that's precisely why it made such a controversy. For once, fans saw the unscripted Cody, the cold, condescending husband the wives had long experienced. That instant was so hurtful that TLC attempted to suppress it, since it didn't fit the shiny, sellable persona they were peddling. But the wives weren't naive. They witnessed the manipulation in the moment. They witnessed how Cody's words changed based on who was by his side. They observed that whenever Robyn was around, his responses perfectly fit her agenda. And when Robyn was not there, Cody was irresponsible, defensive, even explosive. This dual personality raised eyebrows not only among the wives, but also among viewers. Was Cody ever really himself? Or was he merely acting, safeguarding his paycheck, echoing Robyn's story while gagging the others? Janelle and Meri would sit, brusquely through Cody's acts, sharing looks that communicated volumes more than words ever could. They saw that he was lying. They saw the fissures beginning to appear. And when Christine finally walked out, it wasn't so much about her marriage to Cody. It was about exiting a narrative that had never been hers, escaping a screenplay she didn't want to play anymore. That's the tragedy of Sister Wives. It was pitched as real, but backstage it was produced, rehearsed, and censored. Cody wasn't merely a husband, he was turned into a character. And Robyn wasn't merely a wife, she was turned into the co-author of his script. But the instant TLC reposted that confidential footage, the script fell apart. Cody revealed himself, not as the devoted husband he had feigned, but as the man who could easily embarrass a wife on live television, and then not apologize. And Robyn? She wasn't around to cover for him. This time, he had to take responsibility. And that's why this reappearance counts. It doesn't just smear Cody's reputation, it demolishes the facade of the show itself. Viewers finally understand what Christine has long suspected. The narrative we were given was never complete. One of the biggest shockers out of that revived. Tell-all wasn't merely Cody's meanness to Christine. It was the subdued confession that well before cameras began rolling, the Brown family was already broken. In the same episode, Cody and Robyn admitted to going to therapy with Meri even before they were lawfully wedded. Consider that for a moment. This was the family's so-called golden age, the early going when TLC was portraying them as a newlywed, optimistic, cohesive family. And yet beneath the shiny veneer, they were already seeing therapists, already fighting against mistrust, already burdened with wounds no new marriage certificate could cure. Why would TLC hide that reality? Because it destroyed the storyline. The whole concept of sister wives was based on the premise that this family functioned, that love and commitment could hold 4 marriages in one home. Therapy didn't sell the dream. Fractures didn't fit the picture. So rather than presenting the Browns as blemished and struggling, TLC cleaned the footage, edited out the cracks, and kept selling Cody as the charming leader of a plural, loving family. But the longer the cameras kept rolling, the more difficult it was to conceal reality. Christine, Janelle, and Meri experienced the cracks daily. They saw Cody's focus drifting further and further into Robyn's world. They saw the family's foundation wasn't love, but dominance. And they knew that the therapy sessions were never about healing. They were about keeping the illusion alive on the cameras, about keeping everything smoothed over long enough to make the show sellable. And that's what makes this footage's resurfacing so damning. For years, the audience witnessed edited versions of the Brown family, a story in which Robyn was the peacemaker, Cody was the alpha husband, and the other wives were getting used to it. But what TLC hid revealed the contrary. It exposed Robyn walking into a family already filled with hurt. It showed Cody not juggling his marriages. It showed the family crumbling from the beginning. So why let it out now? Why allow the Nacho, confession, and the therapy bombshell back into the public eye after all these years of quiet? Some say it's because Christine's book pushed their hand. With Christine speaking up, with her narrative filling gaps, TLC could no longer cover behind constructed stories. The truth was emerging, whether they put it out or not. And maybe there's another reason. Cody isn't the picture TLC wishes to maintain. With ratings now tied to the fallout, to Christine's independence, to Janelle's courage, to Meri's escape, the network benefits from exposing Cody, from showing the cracks they once buried. Protecting him no longer serves the story. Tearing him down does. The irony is thick. For years, TLC protected Cody at all costs. Now, they're cashing in on his downfall. With the excavation of these clips, they're rewriting the legacy of the Y show, portraying Cody as not the misunderstood husband, but the villain Christine knew him to be. And at the heart of it all is that looming truth. The cracks weren't new. They weren't created by COVID or Robyn or even Christine's departure. They existed the entire time. TLC just didn't want you to notice. When the out-of-view clips reappeared, the web did not just erupt, they flipped. The wave of fan sympathy that had once given Cody the advantage of the doubt fully reversed against him. For years, fans argued, was Cody really overwhelmed by the stresses of polygamous marriage, or was he being cruel on purpose? Now, with Christine's words published and the raw footage as evidence, the verdict was clear. Cody wasn't merely failing as a husband, he was actually tearing his wives down. And as Cody's image collapsed, Christine's rose higher than ever before. Her choice to leave wasn't presented as selfishness or betrayal, as Cody would later allege. It became a survival strategy. Fans witnessed a woman taking back her voice, escaping a man who belittled her in private and humiliated her in public. What Cody framed as abandonment, the world recognized as empowerment. That shift in perception was devastating for Cody, but gold for TLC. The network had built sister wives on the promise of unity, but now they realized the collapse was more profitable than the illusion. The new storyline wasn't about a functioning, plural family, it was about Christine's liberation, Janelle's quiet rebellion, and Meri's long-awaited escape. Cody evolved into the villain of his own narrative, and TLC ran with it. It is evident in the editing. Later seasons feature Cody's ranting, his meltdowns, his spiraling control. The sweet moments he used to have on television are nearly extinct. His anger becomes the show. At the same time, meanwhile, Christine glows with a sense of freedom, Janelle gets credit for toughness, and even Meri, so routinely depicted as desperate, is posed as finally gaining courage. The point is contrast, and the kicker, TLC is profiting from Cody's collapse. The same guy they used to shield is now their largest liability and their greatest resource. Fans watch not to witness him find success, but to see him implode. Each outraged rant, each shattered relationship, each acrid confession, these are the moments that provide ratings now. But this shift isn't limited to the screen. Off camera, Christine's tale is a beacon. Her book, her interviews, her new marriage, these aren't afterthoughts, they're focal points of the larger cultural dialogue. Christine isn't merely surviving in the shadow of Cody, she's thriving outside of him. And fans aren't merely watching, they're rejoicing. Cody, meanwhile, is left with a reality he can't dictate. The family he professed to lead has departed. The wives who stood silently with him are now yelling louder than ever. And the network that once protected him now benefits from unveiling his imperfections. This is the cruel irony of his downfall. Cody wanted to be the star, the patriarch, the man who controlled the narrative. Instead, he became the cautionary tale, the antagonist in a story where the women he tried to silence are now the voices everyone listens to. And that's why Christine's departure wasn't just a personal victory, it was a seismic shift in the entire Sister Wives franchise. Her decision pulled back the curtain, revealing not only Cody, but the machinery of TLC itself. The facade is lost, and what's left is raw, messy, and unfiltered. To viewers, it's riveting. To Cody, it's shattering. And to TLC, it's the new business model. As Cody's mask slipped and Christine broke free, another tempest was already building inside the Brown family, Janelle's rebellion. For years, Janelle had been described as the stable one, the practical wife who didn't make waves. She was concerned with raising the children, securing a future, and maintaining harmony. But under the placid surface, an undercurrent of resentment had been accumulating. When Christine departed, something altered in Janelle. For the first time, she questioned Cody openly, not only about his decisions, but about his right to command. Throughout the pandemic, when Cody enforced strict rules that benefited Robyn's family, Janelle held firm. She would not exile her children. She would not pretend his rules were equitable. And in those moments, fans witnessed a different side of her, a woman no longer willing to yield to Cody's authority. That defiance increased. Season after season, Janelle's tolerance dissipated. She confronted Cody on camera regarding his favoritism. She confessed publicly that she had limits to her loyalty to him, and in time, like Christine, she finally hit her wall. Their breakup wasn't as dramatic as Christine's departure, but it was equally potent. Janelle's passive rebellion became independence, and supporters cheered for her bravery. Then there was Meri, the longest, most complicated relationship in Cody's life. For years, Meri held on to the hope that she could salvage her marriage. She weathered Cody's coldness, his rejection, even his statement that he no longer regarded them as married. People felt sorry for her. Some judged her for remaining. But what they didn't notice was that Meri was also making her move in secret. When she finally turned her back on him, it wasn't with fire and brimstone and public disagreement. It was with dignity. Meri's strength wasn't in loud rebellion. It was in finally acknowledging her worth, even after decades of emotional neglect. And in that moment, the cycle was complete. One by one, the wives Cody thought he controlled slipped out of his grasp. Each departure reshaped the franchise. Christine gave fans a hero. Janelle gave them a fighter. Meri gave them closure. Together, their departures deconstructed Cody's patriarchal persona and reconstructed Sister Wives as something new. Not a tale of one man juggling many wives, but a tale of women reclaiming lives. For TLC, this transformation was goldmine. The drama of creating a plural family had played out, but the drama of watching that family explode, that became the show's core. The ratings climbed not during the joyous anniversaries or the family reunions, but during the showdowns, the breakups, the times when the wives finally asserted themselves against Cody. And even while Robyn stayed on, grasping the final thread of the marriage, even she could not stem the tide. Cody was out of control. The wives had left him. The family was no longer his to command, it was theirs to quit. This is the irony at the heart of Cody's collapse. The man who had long declared himself to be the glue that held them all together was, in fact, the wedge that was driving them apart. And the women he had undervalued were the same ones who got to reauthor the narrative. The question now isn't whether Cody can reinstate what he lost. It's whether there's anything at all left to restore. By the time Meri's quiet departure became public, Cody's authority wasn't just weakened, it was gone. The patriarch who once stood in front of the cameras, boasting about leadership, unity, and vision, now stood alone. His marriages had dissolved one by one, not in silence, but in full public view. The wives he believed would always revolve around him had defected, exposing Cody not as the assured head of a plural family, but as an unattached man. The breakdown did not happen overnight. It was an incremental depletion. Decades of favoritism, public shaming, and emotional abandonment eroded the base until there was nothing to stand upon. Fans who once sympathized with Cody throughout the early seasons no longer came to his defense. Social media flashed with vicious criticism, analyzing his tantrums, ridiculing his inconsistency, and calling him out on his behavior in ways TLC never did while the show was on its prime run. And while Cody was descending into a spiral, Christine was soaring. TLC recognized the handwriting on the wall. Sister Wives' future was not in Cody's rebuilding, it was in Christine's new beginning. Her relocation to Utah, her new beginning with her children, and eventually, her exploration into remarriage became the pulse of the franchise. The narrative changed completely, from Cody's dream of united plural marriage to Christine's dream of freedom and happiness beyond it. Janelle and Meri also became relevant. Their tale of resilience and rediscovery resonated with audiences who could see themselves reflected in their struggles. The wives no longer required Cody to tell them who they were. They were their own tales, their own ratings draw. For TLC, the shift was both bold and genius. By focusing on Christine and the other wives, they kept the show going even as the original concept fell apart. They no longer needed to sell plural marriage in the abstract. They sold the reality of its failure and the strength that ensued. But this left one searing question. What was there for Cody and Robyn? Without the other wives, Cody's universe narrowed to a single home. His picture as the great patriarch fell to something smaller, sadder, just one man grasping for one marriage, fiercely defending decisions that lost him everything else. Fans don't watch to catch Cody having fun anymore. They watch to catch his coming apart, to see the man who once insisted on control confronted with the fact that he has none now. Cody, once the center of the family, has become the cautionary tale, the man who lost it all, and the last to realize it. And that's where Sister Wives stands today. A story no longer about building a dream, but about watching that dream fall apart. Christine's joy, Janelle's strength, Meri's dignity, and Cody's collapse form the new pillars of the franchise. TLC isn't obscuring it, they're doubling down on it, making each and every episode feature the harsh reality of the man Cody aspired to be versus the man he ended up becoming. The show's future, however, is in doubt. How long can TLC keep cashing in on Cody's failure before the narrative dries up? Will Christine's joy propel the franchise into the next phase, or will the series wither as the Browns disperse to lead individual lives? This is one thing that is clear. The illusion is no longer. The veneer of cohesion, of toughness, of collective adoration, it's shattered irreparably. And what is left is hard, unvarnished, and for so many fans, very much more engrossing than the fantasy ever was. Because sometimes the reality doesn't just liberate people, it shreds the whole narrative to pieces. The cameras roll, but this is not the Sister Wives we began with. bid farewell to the orchestrated moments of togetherness, the scripted smiles, and the lines parroted to assure everyone that all was well. What we witness instead is the fall of the Brown dynasty, bare, unguarded, and impossible to spin. Christine's book took away the gloss. The deeply buried clips TLC used to keep under. Wraps are now popping up everywhere, no longer hidden from the public eye. Cody's words, the ones he never imagined would resound beyond an individual episode, now exist online indefinitely. And audiences aren't forgetting. They're analyzing every word, every insult, every betrayal. The story that TLC painstakingly managed to contain has exploded wide open. Robyn, the previously protected favorite, finds herself pulled into the maelstrom. No longer the family savior, she's now just Cody's final supporter in a collapsing house of cards. Viewers wonder if she's genuine, her tears, her timing. Was she in on it all along to win Cody over and betray the others? Or was she caught, up in the crash of a patriarch who couldn't keep his world intact? Janelle, the former family quiet strategist, is now a voice of reason and truth. Her self-reliance appeals to viewers who believe that her strength is the ultimate rejection of Cody's control. And Meri, long publicly embarrassed on television, regains her dignity by walking away, showing that even after decades of emotional abuse, it is possible for one to finally choose themselves. But the biggest surprise isn't in the past, it's now. TLC, no longer shielding Cody, is unleashing scenes that were previously hidden. Deleted tell-alls, lost confrontations, embarrassing moments, they're making a comeback to the light. With each clip unleashed, the curtain continues to be pulled back a little bit more, and the public gets to see just what Christine, Janelle, and Meri went through. The impact is heartbreaking for Cody. His meticulously crafted image of a devoted father, spiritual leader, and victimized man dissolves to ashes. In its place stands the uncomfortable reality, a man driven by control, oblivious to the anguish he inflicted, and unwilling to acknowledge the harm until it was too late. And yet, this is where the plot takes its most thrilling turn. Because if TLC is going to bear this much now, what else are they keeping from us? What tapes, what confessions, what behind-the-scenes brawls remain in their vaults? The fans are calling for the complete release. Show us everything. Let us see the real Cody Brown. Christine is on to the next, untethered and happy. Janelle is forging her own way. Meri has entered into autonomy. Robyn holds on to what is left. And Cody? Cody is the center of the storm, no longer master of the story, no longer the mastermind, no longer the man he presented himself to be. The illusion is broken. The lie is revealed. And the tale of sister wives is not about polygamy. Anymore, it's a story of survival, betrayal, and the deadly price of living a lie. So here's the shocking reality. The Brown family that we knew is no more. TLC is no longer sheltering Cody. The wives are no longer quiet. The fans are no longer buying the fantasy. The reality has been let out, and it cannot be silenced once again. The only question remaining is, what will come next? Because if this is only the tip of the iceberg of what's being revealed, then Sister Wives' darkest, most surprising secrets are potentially just around the corner. And when they do come out, it won't just be the end of Cody's story. It could be the end of the entire franchise. This family's drama is far from over, so smash like if you're daughter Team Wives, subscribe for the next explosive update, and drop a comment below. Who do you think will win? Stay shady, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next scandal. Behind TLC Sister Wives out.